Welcome to Conspiracy Deconstructed. Today we're tackling something truly extraordinary, peeling back layers of secrecy around a place you might actually know.
We are. It's a story about a hidden world beneath perhaps one of the most luxurious spots in America. Not quite a conspiracy theory, but a confirmed secret that feels like one.
Exactly. We're talking about the Greenbrier Bunker. The core idea, and get this, it's basically true. For 3 decades, the U.S. government secretly operated this enormous fallout shelter.
Right under the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia. Codename, Project Greek Island.
And this wasn't just, a little basement room. This was designed to save the entire legislative branch.
All 535 members of Congress, plus essential staff, maybe even some family. We're talking over 1,100 people capacity.
Imagine that scenario. Nuclear war breaks out, D.C. is gone, and Congress is evacuated 4 hours away underground.
While resort guests upstairs might be, playing tennis or something, completely oblivious. It's mind-bending.
And the level of deception, that's what grabs you. For years, people attended conferences, weddings right there.
Literally walking over the speaker's podium, potentially. Or the Senate chamber.
Sometimes separated only by, a fake wall?
A movable partition, yeah.
Right.
Or maybe just a door marked high voltage.
It's incredible, a fortress hiding in plain sight underneath this symbol of, old American luxury.
And the fascinating part, as you said, is that this isn't just speculation. This secret eventually broke. Not through rumor, but through serious journalism.
Right, it came out in 92, which kind of blew the lid off everything.
Completely. So let's maybe step back and look at how this whole thing even started. The why and the when.
Okay, yeah. Let's set the stage. Where did Project Greek Island actually come from?
Well, it wasn't some sudden panic project.
Yeah.
It really grew out of the deep anxieties of the Cold War. We're talking the late 1950s.
So, Eisenhower administration.
Exactly. Congress commissioned it officially in 1958. You have to remember the context.
Sputnik had launched just the year before, right?
Right. And that changed everything. Suddenly, the Soviet threat wasn't just bombers over the horizon. It was missiles, intercontinental. The possibility of a strike on D.C. felt terrifyingly real.
So this bunker plan, it wasn't just about saving politicians' lives.
Not primarily, no. It was driven by constitutional necessity. They called it coup continuity of operations. And the bigger picture, cog continuity of government.
Meaning the government itself had to survive functionally.
Precisely. Article 1 of the Constitution lays out the legislative branch's duties. How do you fulfill those past laws, declare war, approve budgets if Congress is scattered, or worse, gone?
So the bunker was meant to ensure that Congress, as an institution, could keep working even if the Capitol building was a crater.
That was the core mission, preserving the legislative function, maintaining that branch of government no matter what.
Okay, so they need a secure location. Why the Greenbrier? Fancy resort seems like, an odd choice.
It seems odd now, maybe. But it was actually a very strategic calculation. Several factors played into it.
Like what? Proximity?
Proximity was huge, yeah. It needed to be close enough for evacuation from D.C. About a 4-hour drive, which they figured was sort of the maximum feasible time window in a crisis.
But not too close.
Exactly. Far enough away that it wouldn't likely be a primary target itself.
Right.
Unlike D.C. or major military bases.
And the mountains, did they help?
Absolutely. The Allegheny Mountains provide significant natural shielding. They dampen a blast wave, offer protection from fallout patterns.
Makes sense, a natural barrier.
Plus, the area wasn't totally isolated technologically. There were existing defense communication lines and maybe some radar sites nearby from that era, so they could potentially tap into secure networks.
Oh, okay. Any other reasons for choosing the Greenbrier specifically?
Yeah, the resort's own history was convenient. During World War II, it had actually been taken over by the government and used as a military hospital, Ashford General Hospital.
So a large federal presence there wouldn't be totally unprecedented? People were kind of used to it.
It certainly helped camouflage the initial construction phase, yes. Less likely to raise eyebrows.
And the construction itself. When did that happen, and how did they keep that secret?
Construction started pretty quickly after the 58 Commission. Began in 1959. It was mostly done by late 1961 or early 62. Remarkably fast, actually.
And the timing?
Perfect timing. It coincided exactly with the resort building its huge new addition, the West Virginia Wing.
The perfect cover! Build the bunker while everyone thinks you're just building a new hotel wing and conference center.
That was the plan. They used a method called cut and cover. Basically, dig a massive hole, build the reinforced concrete structure inside it, and then cover it back up.
But digging a hole that big,
Right.
that creates a lot of dirt. Spoil, they call it, right? How do you hide mountains of excavated earth?
That's where the genius, or maybe the audacity, comes in. They needed to dispose of hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of rock and soil without anyone noticing.
So where'd it go?
2 places, primarily. A large portion was used to expand one of the resort's famous golf courses. Adding 9 new holes requires a lot of landscaping fill.
Hiding it in plain sight again, as a resort improvement.
Exactly, and the rest. They used it as fill material to extend the runway at the local Greenbrier Valley Airport. Again, looks like normal development.
Wow, that's intricate planning, just to hide the digging.
It had to be. And the bunker they built wasn't just a concrete box. It was seriously hardened.
How strong are we talking?
Walls were about 2 feet thick, heavily reinforced concrete, designed specifically to withstand fallout, maybe even nearby blast effects, not a direct hit probably, but significant protection.
And life support, air, water.
State-of-the-art for the time. Filtered air systems, massive water tanks, decontamination showers at the entrances, lead shielding in critical areas. The works. This was meant for a long haul underground.
Months, potentially.
The plan was for self-sufficiency for up to 6 months.
Incredible. So this whole operation runs in total secrecy for decades.
Yes.
Until 1992.
Yes. May 31st, 1992. That's when the story finally broke.
In the Washington Post magazine, right?
Yeah.
By a reporter named Ted Gup.
Ted Gup. The ultimate congressional hideaway. That was the headline. And it just laid it all bare.
What were the immediate consequences of that article? Did the government deny it?
They couldn't, really. Gup had done his homework. The details were too specific, too accurate. The sources were clearly solid, likely insiders who felt it was time, or perhaps that the facility was obsolete.
So the secret was out. Instantly.
Instantly. And Gup later talked about his reasoning, which is interesting. He apparently sat on the story for a few months.
Why?
To verify everything, meticulously. But also, he said, to ensure publishing it wouldn't jeopardize any current national security operations. He felt by 92 the bunker itself was kind of a Cold War relic.
Obsolete. Why would he think that?
Well, Gup argued that the nature of the threat had changed. ICBMs meant missile flight times were much shorter than the old bomber threats. The idea of having hours to evacuate Congress to West Virginia seemed less realistic.
The warning window had shrunk too much.
That was part of his argument. He also suggested that keeping such a massive secret, that kind of bunker mentality, was maybe unhealthy for a democracy, a lack of transparency.
That's sort of symbolic argument too, then.
Yeah. He basically said the secrecy itself had become a potential liability.
And the government's reaction, once the Post published?
Swift. The bunker's entire value proposition depended on secrecy. Once that was gone.
It was useless. Worse than useless, maybe. A known target.
Exactly. So the U.S. government had little choice. They began decommissioning procedures almost immediately.
Pulling out all the classified gear.
Everything sensitive. Communications equipment, documents, probably contingency plans, stripped clean. The funding, around $14 million Gup estimated had been spent maintaining it over the years, was halted.
Just like that. 30 years of readiness. Over.
Because a reporter spilled the beans.
Okay, so we have the beginning and the end. Let's get into the evidence, the mechanics of how they maintained this secret for so long, the details that make you realize the sheer scale of it.
Right. This is where you see the absolute commitment. Point number 1 has to be the architecture itself, hiding this fortress in plain sight.
Inside the West Virginia wing, mostly.
Yes, that was the key. It wasn't some shed out back. The main entrances, the operational areas, were integrated right into the public parts of that new wing.
The part billed as a clinic expansion and a conference center.
Exactly. That conference center, the exhibit hall, was central. Guests used it all the time.
And the entrances, how were they secured?
With massive concealed blast doors. These things were engineering marvels in themselves.
How big are we talking?
The main one, reports say, weighed over 28 tons. That's 56,000 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. 12 feet wide, 15 feet high, almost 20 inches thick, solid steel, essentially. Designed to withstand incredible pressure.
And hidden?
Hidden behind movable walls. Panels that look like regular walls in a conference area could slide or pivot away to reveal these enormous steel doors.
So people could have been leaning against a wall having a coffee break.
And on the other side was the entrance to a nuclear bunker.
Yes. Even the structure of the public spaces was part of the disguise, wasn't it?
Absolutely. That huge exhibit hall guests used. It had these large, very visible concrete support columns.
Just looked like part of the architecture.
Right. But they weren't just holding up the ceiling of the hall. They were integral structural supports for the bunker built beneath it. carrying a load, reinforcing the underground structure.
So the hull itself was effectively the roof of part of the bunker?
In a way, yes. The mundane shielding the extraordinary.
Okay, that's the physical structure. What about the people needed to run it? You can't just lock it and leave it.
No, you definitely can't. And that's the second major piece of evidence. The permanent undercover staff. This is pure cloak and dagger stuff.
How many people?
A small, dedicated team. Sources say around 12 to 15 government employees working there full-time for 30 years.
Government employees, not resort staff.
Absolutely not. These had to be cleared personnel. Engineers, communication specialists, logistics people, maintaining complex systems in secret.
So what did everyone else think they were doing there? They needed a cover story.
And they had a brilliant one. Officially, they worked for a company called Forsyth Associates.
Based where?
Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah.
Right outside D.C. Looked like just another government contractor, perhaps.
And what was Forsyth Associates' supposed business at the Greenbrier?
Get this. They were the hotel's TV repair service.
TV repair? Seriously?
The cover was that they were there to maintain the resort's 1,100 television sets.
That's perfect in a way. Completely unremarkable. Who pays attention to the TV repair guy?
Exactly. It gave them a legitimate reason to be anywhere on the property, accessing wiring closets, service tunnels, equipment rooms, without raising suspicion.
So you have these highly skilled government agents, maybe ex-military Signal Corps guys.
We know the first manager, a man named John Landis, was exactly that, a former cryptographic expert from the Army Signal Corps, previously at the Pentagon.
Wow, so these weren't just maintenance guys, these were serious operators.
Definitely. And their job wasn't fixing TVs. It was ensuring Project Greek Island was ready to go live at a moment's notice. Testing the generators, checking the air filters, managing the supplies.
Which brings us to the third point. What was actually in the bunker? What make it a viable continuity of government site?
It was fully equipped for long-term survival and operation. Think of it as a self-contained underground town.
Food, water, power.
Check. Stockpiled supplies for 6 months. Huge tanks of purified water, massive reserves of dehydrated food, all periodically rotated out and replaced to keep it fresh. Diesel generators with enormous fuel tanks for power.
And the main purpose for Congress to function, did they have actual rooms set up?
They did. 2 main legislative chambers were designed. The Governor's Hall, a large space, is laid out to be quickly converted into the House of Representatives chamber. Seats for all 435 members.
Everything pre-planned.
Down to the wiring for microphones and voting systems, presumably. And a smaller room, the Mountaineer Room, was set up for the Senate, holding about 130.
And if they needed to meet together, joint session.
That huge exhibit hall, the one the tourists used upstairs, was the designated space for joint sessions. It was massive, 89 by 186 feet. Plenty of room.
So they could literally replicate the functional spaces of the Capitol building underground.
That was the goal. Maintain the process, the structure, the legitimacy of Congress, even in Armageddon.
Okay, structure, staff, supplies, legislative chambers. But what about the human side? Housing over 1,000 stressed people underground. That presents unique problems.
Huge problems. And the planning for that is maybe the most revealing fourth piece of evidence about the mindset behind this.
Where were people supposed to sleep? Not Greenbrier suites, I assume.
Definitely not. There were dormitories. 18 large rooms, each packed with metal bunk beds. Designed to sleep up to 60 people per room.
60 people in one room. That's barracks living.
Stark contrast to the luxury upstairs, yes. Very utilitarian. Shared bathrooms down the hall.
What else for daily life? Food, medical.
A large cafeteria designed to seat 400 at a time, probably serving cycles. And a surprisingly comprehensive medical facility.
Like a clinic.
More than a clinic. It had examination rooms, dental chairs, lab facilities, and even a fully equipped operating room. Plus a pharmacy.
And what was stocked in that pharmacy tells a story, doesn't it?
It really does. Sources mentioned it was well stocked with the usual medical supplies, but also a significant quantity of antidepressants.
Antidepressants. The planners anticipated serious psychological stress.
They absolutely did. Imagine being locked underground, possibly for months, knowing the world outside might be devastated. Maybe your family members who weren't with you. The potential for despair, panic, trauma was immense.
But it goes beyond just managing depression, right? There were darker preparations.
Yes, this is where it gets quite grim, but it shows how thoroughly they considered the breakdown of order.
What specific?
The facility included a small detention area, a jail cell, essentially.
A jail? For who?
Presumably for anyone who became disruptive, violent, or perhaps had a complete psychological break. And get this.
What?
The reports mentioned it contained 2 boxes of straitjackets.
Straitjackets. For members of Congress or their staff?
That's the implication. The phrase Ted Gup used, quoting a source, was planners worried about people going bonkers. They also had riot gear stored away.
Riot gear, down there. They were planning for internal conflict among the survivors.
It seems they were preparing for the absolute worst-case scenarios, including a breakdown of discipline and order within the bunker among the nation's leaders. The need to maintain control was paramount.
That's astonishingly bleak, a level of cynical realism you don't often associate with government planning.
It shows they weren't naive about human nature under extreme duress. And the final piece of that grim puzzle.
There's more.
The power plant area contained what was described as a pathological waste incinerator.
Meaning
an incinerator designed to cremate human remains.
So they anticipated deaths inside the bunker and needed a way to dispose of bodies hygienically over a potentially long period.
It points to the expectation of casualties, whether from illness, stress, conflict, or simply the inability to provide advanced medical care indefinitely. It underscores the bunker was seen as a truly long-term, self-contained survival arc, not just a temporary hideout.
Wow. The level of detail is staggering. Incinerators and straitjackets.
So you have this incredibly detailed, fully stocked, secretly staffed facility ready for decades.
And yet, it was never actually used. Not once for an emergency relocation.
That's the historical fact. Never activated. Even during the Cuban Missile Crisis in October '62, when it was brand new and the world was arguably on the brink.
Why not? Did they come close?
Sources suggest that key congressional leaders were briefed on the procedures during the crisis. They knew where to go if the order came, but that order never came.
So the Greenbrier just kept operating as a resort, guests checking in and out, while Kennedy and Khrushchev stared each other down.
Pretty much. The readiness was there, the plan existed, but the trigger wasn't pulled.
Which brings us back to that question of obsolescence Gup raised. Was it already becoming impractical by the 70s or 80s?
That's a strong argument. As mentioned, the shrinking missile warning times were a major factor. Could you realistically get 1,100 plus people out of D.C. through potentially chaotic roads and secured underground in West Virginia within, say, 30 minutes? Probably not.
The logistics became impossible.
Or at least incredibly risky. Plus, strategic thinking evolved. The idea of concentrating your entire legislative branch in one known, albeit secret, underground location started to seem less appealing.
Like putting all your eggs in one very expensive concrete basket.
Exactly. Later COG planning emphasized dispersion, mobility, maybe smaller, hardened command posts, and relying more on secure communications technology rather than one giant bunker.
So, by 1992, when Gup's article appeared,
it wasn't just that the secret was out. The facility itself was arguably already past its prime strategically. The leak simply forced the government's hand to decommission something whose core value secrecy was gone and whose strategic relevance was debatable.
So the decommissioning process started quickly. They removed all the secret tech.
Right. Stripped out the sensitive stuff. Communications gear, encryption devices, classified plans. But the structure itself, the concrete shell, the dormitories, the blast doors, that all remained.
And the Greenbrier Resort took it over.
They eventually took over maintenance, yes. And by 1995, they had pivoted. What was once top secret became a tourist attraction.
Project Greek Island became the Greenbrier Bunker tour.
Exactly. History turned into heritage tourism.
You mentioned the communication center earlier. There was something specific about that, about managing perception.
Ah, yes. That's a fascinating detail that really highlights the psychological aspect of the planning.
This was the room where Congress members could broadcast to the nation.
If there was a nation left to broadcast to, yes. It had a fully equipped TV studio, secure phone lines, everything needed to address the survivors.
Okay. Standard enough for a command center.
But here's the clever part. The studio wasn't just a blank room. It had changeable backdrops.
Backdrops? Of what?
Professionally painted scenes of Washington, D.C., specifically the U.S. Capitol building or the White House, with different versions for different seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter.
Wait, so they could broadcast from the bunker?
And make it look like they were still in a functioning, intact Washington, D.C. Maintain the illusion of normalcy and control, even if the Capitol was radioactive dust.
That's profound manipulation almost, projecting stability even if it was completely gone.
It shows how much they understood the importance of psychological reassurance. The survival of the government wasn't just physical. It was about maintaining legitimacy and the perception of continuity in the eyes of any surviving population.
Wow. Okay, so today, people can tour this place.
They can. It's a regular guided tour offered by the resort. Takes about 90 minutes. You need reservations. You can walk through the blast doors, see the dorms, the decontamination showers.
A glimpse into a secret world.
A very tangible piece of Cold War history. And interestingly, parts of the bunker are apparently used again today.
For what? Not government continuity.
No, for data storage. A private sector company, CSX.IP, uses some of the secure underground space as a data center.
History rhymes, I guess. From protecting government secrets to protecting corporate data. The need for secure underground space persists.
It seems so. Different threat, similar solution in some ways.
So let's talk about the final part. Why does this story still fascinate us so much? It's not a conspiracy in the sense of being untrue, but it has that same power to capture the imagination.
I think it taps into some really deep-seated feelings about government, secrecy, and, well, survival.
The secrecy aspect is huge, right? The idea that this was going on right under everyone's noses.
Definitely. When the news broke, the reaction wasn't just amazement at the engineering feed.
Yeah.
There was also a sense of unease, shock maybe.
Shock that the government had this elaborate escape plan just for itself.
Exactly. It confirmed that suspicion many people harbor, that there's one set of rules and plans for the elite, the insiders, and another for everyone else. Here was concrete proof, literally.
A plan for their survival while the rest of us were advised to duck and cover.
It feeds into that narrative of a distant, secretive government prioritizing its own preservation above all else. Whether that's fair or not, that was certainly a major part of the public reaction.
And the details themselves add to the psychological drama. The grim stuff.
Oh, absolutely. The antidepressants, the street jackets, the incinerator. These aren't just technical specs. They paint a picture of anticipated chaos, breakdown, and death. It makes the whole scenario feel much more real and terrifying.
It shows the planners weren't just thinking about infrastructure. They were thinking about human fragility under unimaginable pressure.
And the contrast with the location, that's key.
The Greenbrier, known for luxury, golf, galas.
Exactly. This symbol of peace, relaxation, and upper-class leisure. And just feet beneath the manicured lawns and ballrooms, this stark concrete tomb waiting for the apocalypse. That juxtaposition is incredibly powerful. It makes the story sticky, memorable.
Luxury above, horror below.
It's a narrative dynamite.
And is the underlying need still there? Does the government still plan for this kind of thing, even if the Greenbrier is defunct?
Oh, absolutely. COG and coup planning never stopped. In fact, events after the Cold War, like 9/11 and the subsequent anthrax attacks, which actually did disrupt Congress.
Right, they had to close parts of the Capitol complex.
Those events gave renewed urgency to continuity planning. How do you keep Congress functioning if its physical location is compromised or inaccessible? They developed new protocols, likely involving secure remote communications, designated alternative meeting sites, probably smaller and more dispersed than the Greenbrier concept.
So the problem hasn't gone away.
The threat evolves from nuclear annihilation to terrorism to pandemics, maybe even cyber attacks. But the fundamental need to ensure the government can continue its constitutional duties remains a constant concern.
Which leaves us with a really profound question, echoing Ted Gup's point back in '92. The government spent enormous resources, maintained incredible secrecy for decades, all to ensure the physical survival of the institution of Congress, preserving that framework of democracy.
A valid goal, most would argue.
But at the cost of transparency. Does the sheer fact of keeping that kind of survival plan secret from the public fundamentally undermine the trust necessary for democracy to function? What do you think? Is that level of secrecy a necessary evil for institutional survival, or is it inherently corrosive to the relationship between the government and the governed?
That's the question, isn't it? Where do you draw the line between prudent preparation and problematic secrecy? Something to definitely think about.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us on Conspiracy Deconstructed as we explore the reality behind the ultimate congressional hideaway. We'll leave you with that thought to ponder.